Finley to throw. Over the middle, intercepted. Wolford again. Wolford the other way at the 30, the 40. Wolford to midfield. Miles Wolford with the pick. The Heels on the doorstep of an enormous victory. Williams is the running back next to Howe. Play action. Howe will now lob it down the near side. Newsom with a man all over him. Pins the ball against the back of the defender and brings it in. Heels can get a first down at the 3. Howe, pump fake to the right. Now he's going to run to the left. Howe at the 5. Takes the shot. Pinballing off the chains for the touchdown. Showing the toughness for 6.
Cardinals down 4, 35-31. May has the shotgun snap. Pressure coming. Rolls to the right.
Goes to the end zone. Touchdown! Touchdown, Antoine Green! 16 seconds to go. No flag.
Snapping it off the 8-yard line. May pulls it, tries to roll it apart.
Oh, now he's going to throw it and score! Throws it to Payson in the end zone for the touchdown. They are going to play for left-handed. Was rolling out on the run and threw it left-handed. Nard fields it at the 26. Heading to the far side. Gio at the 35. Gio, he's at the 50. No, he's not. Yes, he is. Gio, he's going to take it for a touchdown. Are you kidding me?
What's going on, guys? Welcome into another edition of the Heel Tough Blog Podcast. It's your host, Anthony Pagnotta, here with you guys as always. Coming at you tonight on a Thursday night. This is normally the day where we are previewing an upcoming game for the Tar Heels. But that is not happening. Carolina is in the middle of a bye week, their second bye week of the season, and one that has been as crazy as really any time that we have seen in Carolina football history. Of course, you had everything yesterday. Got to the point that we thought we were going to be seeing the end of the Bill Belichick era yesterday at some point. And, you know, we've gotten through it. Now we're on the other side, and it looks like Bill Belichick is going to be here to stay. So we're going to talk about the latest reports that we have in as of right now. There were some conflicting reports that came out earlier today that would seem to point to the fact that none of the conversations that happened yesterday, that we were told happened yesterday, happened. So what do we believe when it comes to all that? We'll let you know. And then what changes will we like to see to this current staff if Carolina is going to move forward with Bill Belichick as head coach? That looks like that's going to be the case. So we will, of course, tell you what we want to see changed for Carolina in season as they try to become a little bit more competitive. But as I said, let's start with what Andrew Jones said earlier this morning, or it might have been a late night post last night. And basically with the words, the 25 words that were put out combined between Bill Belichick and athletic director Bubba Cunningham, there was, you know, some thoughts about whether or not that was a true, you know, a true backing of Bill Belichick and this staff, whether that was just something that Carolina was putting out at the time just because they knew that they had to put something out. It seems like this is pretty concrete that they are standing behind Bill Belichick, that they are going to at least make a run at this thing the rest of this year. You know, according to Andrew Jones, it looks like now he is going to be the coach in the Cal game. Yesterday, it seemed like it was very unlikely that he would be coaching in that game. But basically now it seems like most people are on board with that, thinking that he is going to end up being the coach for that game. And Andrew Jones believes that, you know, he said that those words might have been just enough to buy him 51 days, which would get him to the end of the regular season in the game against NC State. Anything from that point moving forward, we don't know exactly what's going to happen from that standpoint. So, I mean, with him reporting that, it seems like inside Carolina is along the same lines. They feel like this is probably going to be at least until the end of the season that Bill Belichick is going to be on board What are your thoughts about that choice by Carolina after we got so close yesterday to seeing him potentially gone 5 games into the season?
Yeah, it's going to be a long 51 days because it's not going to get better. Carolina's not going to get more competitive on the field, which means it's just going to get more chaotic off of it. And I'd love to think, man, that we got the right type of dudes in the locker room that could really use this as a rallying cry and something to really get behind. And we see a different football team the last 7 games of the season. But that would require there being a culture that would breed that type of leadership from your players. And I don't think that exists either. So, for those of us that are ready for this to be over, for this to be something that we can kind of move on and start forgetting about, it's going to be a little bit, and we're going to have to endure a long 7 weeks after this bye week does come to an end, and then I think from there it'll be pretty easy. It'll be a lot easier to save face if you do it after the season. He can admit, hey, this is not what I thought I was getting into. And Carolina can say, hey, we don't look as bad getting rid of you after 1 year as opposed to getting rid of you after 5 games. So, it's I don't say it's unfortunate because, I mean, I don't want to be rooting for dudes to be unemployed because his employment status impacts other people's job status on the coaching staff. But it just felt like yesterday we got to the point where it just was in the best interest of Carolina to move on. There was nothing to gain from him being the head coach here anymore, but Carolina has decided to remain behind him. And so we just gotta wait this thing out. But I think it's inevitable to know that whenever Carolina walks off the field against NC State, that'll be the last time they'll do so with Bill Belichick as their head coach, and rightfully so. Muted.
Yeah, I think that's a really good chance that that's what ultimately ends up happening. I'm rooting for it at this point, to be honest with you, and not because of the other guys on the staff, but because I just feel like at this point, there's not really much that you can have that he can bring to the table. I don't think that he is cut out for the college game. I think the way that he goes about his business at this point in his life is not what Carolina is looking for. You're not getting the same determined coach that he was when he was in New England at the beginning of his career. You're getting the guy that was there at the end, and a guy that was not necessarily great with talent evaluation, a guy that is at this point looking like he is letting a lot of the other people around this program do the running of the program, and he is basically just showing up for game days thinking that he should be the CEO type head coach. And here's the thing. When we hired Bill Belichick, we thought you were getting a more hands-on, more technical coach than you got when Mac Brown was here. If you wanted the CEO type head coach, well, there's none better than Mac Brown at handling that role. And so I think that's really the most concerning thing, is that that's the area that we've gotten to already with Bill Belichick, where it feels like he doesn't want to necessarily be hands-on. You know, he doesn't want to be talking to the parents. He doesn't want to be closely tied to everybody on this roster where kids can contact him at any time and really, ask him any sort of questions that they need to, which is what you really need if you're a college head coach. That's what you should be looking for. So I think, with where he's at, I think at this point, rinsing yourself of this tenure is probably the best thing that you can possibly do. And then you just go through and have another coaching search process, hopefully one that's led by the athletic director and allows you to come out on the other side with some answers about what the future looks like for this athletic program, for this football program moving forward. But I mean, yeah, at this point, I don't know what to believe about, whether or not he's going to be here for the remainder of this year or if he's going to be here for years moving forward. I trust Andrew Jones and his sourcing that he is giving us the right information and that he is probably going to be here for the remainder of the year. But after that, I can't tell you. I mean, I don't know if Carolina is willing to just see this thing out and hoping that things get better under Bill Belichick, that maybe if he does make changes in the offseason, that'll lead to some success. They're wanting to probably keep together this 2026 recruiting class. But to me, I think it's worth the risk of getting rid of him at the end of the season, going out and finding another head coach and seeing if that head coach can sort of keep this together as much as possible, especially with some of the in-state guys that you've got in that recruiting class. Some of the other guys may potentially go elsewhere, but I think, for these kids, that's ultimately what needs to happen. Well, then you have the report later in the day from Pat Welter, who has been covering this story in depth, of course, broke the news that, eventually got Armand Hawkins officially suspended by the university, and then led to it being official as of earlier today. And we'll talk about that here in just a little bit. But he was saying that he was speaking to multiple sources today and reports that the UNC decision makers, the reports yesterday that suggested that they discussed an exit strategy regarding Bill Belichick are false, according to his sources. Same with Bill Belichick's triggering his own buyout, which I would assume is him responding to the report from Ali Conley. Internally, they are working to improve across the board. So when you see this comment from Pat Welter, this report that comes out from him, basically saying that all of the stuff that we were talking about yesterday, none of that was real and that everything was completely fake. What do you think about that? I mean, that's, to me, seems very bold, going against the reporting of Andrew Jones, who seems to be as locked in as anybody is to the program, and Ali Conley, who seems to be very locked in on the Belichick front. He was the guy, of course, that broke the news of the initial conversations between Carolina and Bill Belichick, and I think may have even broken the news of the initial hire of Bill Belichick when it was official. So what do you think of those reports from him?
Yeah, it's very it seemed very late to try to do damage control, because which is why I don't believe, and I'm not believing Pat Welter. I'm not believing what Pat Welter was reporting today from what he was told, because where was the people coming to the defense of Belichick when all hell broke loose yesterday?
Yeah.
Like, I mean, you had everybody and their mother in the college football world, in the NFL world, in the sports world, had an opinion on the matter. It was the biggest storyline in sports yesterday. Was, could he potentially be fired after 5 games? But there was never anyone that came to the defense of Belichick while all this stuff was revving up. It was a bunch of people that were basically justifying why Carolina should do this and not delay it. And now you want to come out the next day and deny all those reports, and that we just all wasted a day writing articles, hosting podcasts, doing segments on the radio for a bunch of hoopla. And then the unified statement that we got at the end of the night was 25 combined words from Bill Belichick and Bubba Cunningham. No, that's we're not naive. Now, do we know how far these conversations went and the length of the discussions? No, we don't. But do I think those preliminary conversations, which is what was reported and kind of what we were talking about last night, do I think those preliminary conversations took place? Absolutely. So, if this damage control would have showed up, I don't know, within 5 to 10 minutes of the initial tweet or report that started all this in motion, maybe I'd be more open to it. It was almost 24 hours after the fact that now they're trying to clean up the mess. So no, I definitely believe what Andrew Jones, what Ollie Connolly, what those guys were reporting yesterday, as opposed to what Pat Welter was forced to re-report today while trying to follow up on the situation.
Yeah, no, I'm 100% with you. I think that this is a job done by those at the top of the university that had that conversation yesterday, that just don't want it to be known that this was what was actually being talked about. For some reason, they feel like they need to save face. I don't know if they feel like they are afraid of Belichick, if they're afraid of Michael Lombardi, what is going on. But it really does feel like it is just damage control, that they want to try to remove themselves from that state that they were in yesterday, which was looking for, a chance to buy out Bill Belichick, get out of this experiment, and just move on. And so to me, I'm going to trust Andrew Jones over just about anybody. I think he is the best at covering this program right now. Especially on the football side of things, basketball. I think he does a great job as well. So I'm going to trust him on that front over, someone in Pat Welter who, we know is a part of the group that covers Carolina, but he's not Andrew Jones. He's not as locked in. He's not doing it day to day the way that Andrew Jones is. So I'm going to believe what Andrew Jones says. And until he has any sort of, refuting of his own reports, if he, ends up retracting them, then yeah, okay, then we can have a serious conversation about this not happening. I believe it happened. I believe those conversations were had, and what I believe happened, and I think what most people believed happened, is that they thought, okay, we were going to come to a solution last night. We were going to find a way to make this buyout happen. I think they figured out that it's going to be a much longer road towards trying to get Bill Belichick out of here. There's going to be a lot of legal battles, everything like that. So in my mind, they figured out that, one, the buyout, just to buy him straight out of his contract, is way too expensive. They would owe him over $20 million. And they also figured out that at the same time, they probably weren't going to be able to prove that there was wrongdoing from members of his coaching staff, or if they do, it would take the majority of the rest of the regular season to figure that out, and that it's probably just worth keeping him on. So I think you're right. I think, whoever put these talking points in the ear of Pat Welter, I think they're really just trying to make sure that they are covering the university's backside on this scenario. And I think that, right now, these discussions did happen. I think that, when we get to the end of the season, these discussions will happen yet again, and in a much more serious manner. And I think that Carolina will hopefully, be able to move on, because you're right, man. Nothing is going to get better with Carolina. I don't see this team turning it around on the field. I don't know if there is one key change that they can make to this coaching staff that would allow them to really turn everything around, but it just doesn't seem like, one, they have the talent, and two, you mentioned the culture, the lack of culture that is in the locker room. And that's the thing that Pat Welter also said. A lot of people will say, well, Pat Welter, this shows that he has no credibility, that he's turning his back on his initial reports. He is not turning his back on any of the reports that he had on Monday night. All of that stuff is still, is still, as of this point, he's sticking by it. So he says there's been next to zero pushback on my reporting. I stand by it. I didn't report that they were discussing firing Belichick. I never heard that from a source. I reached out to multiple UNC decision makers today to get their side of the story, and this is what I can share. So he's standing behind all of his reporting. He was not one of the guys that was reporting yesterday that there were conversations going on. Again, that was Andrew Jones and Ollie Conley that were reporting that stuff. So I think that he's, in the right with where he's at. I'm going to try to bring him on the podcast here so that we can sort of get to the bottom of this and sort of clear some of this stuff up. But it seems like there's still no culture inside of that UNC locker room. And that's part of the reason why it feels almost impossible for this team to turn things back in the right direction. Unless, as Bren Renner said, there is somebody that stands up in that locker room and just says, look, let's put all this bleep to the side. Let's focus on us. Let's focus on just finding a way to win for ourselves. And we're not worried about the coach that's on the sideline doing it. That was what you were going to have to do if there was an interim coach. So why not act like there's an interim coach in here for right now? Because if Bill really is kind of asleep at the wheel, he's kind of just letting this program run itself. Well, then it's on these guys. It's on those leaders in that locker room to step up and say, we've had enough of this losing. We've had enough of being non-competitive. We're going to stand up and actually put together a product that people can be proud of for the rest of this season. All right, guys, really quickly, let's get an ad read in here for Legacy Arcade for you guys. Legacy Arcade is an online social casino that allows you to win cash prizes with roulette, blackjack, your favorite slot games, and multiplayer fish games. You can win cash prizes playing your favorite arcade games. Use the promo code HEELS and get up to $100 in free match play at registration. It's safe, secure, and comes with 24-hour customer support. Instant redemption immediately to your bank account or card, which is always great. So if you win, you can immediately redeem that to your bank account, have that money available to you. Accepts all major credit cards, Skrill, and ACH. So plenty of different ways that you can pay in to get in on the action. And then Apple Pay is coming soon. So make sure that you guys are jumping in on that for us. All you got to do is scan that promo code, or scan that QR code rather, on the screen. Use that promo code for us, and that's going to help us out too. That's one of the ways that you can help us, is by going on there, playing some of those games for us, or just really using that promo code. Just gets us. It helps us out a ton. And for us, again, we are guys that like to play blackjack. We think it's really cool on the website. It's a cool way to get involved if you're not necessarily wanting to go out to an actual casino, but you could do it right from the comfort of your own home. So make sure that you guys are checking that out. All right, guys, now let's get to the coaching changes that we want to see here for the rest of the season. I think the first one is pretty obvious. I think that has to be that Carolina moves on from Freddie Kitchens as the offensive coordinator, whether that means that they are actually firing him or if it means that they are moving him to his previous role as the tight ends coach. That's what I prefer, because I think tight ends coach Freddie Kitchens was actually really productive and was a big part of the staff the last few years. I just think that offensive play calling might not be his strong suit, especially at the college level. It feels like you need someone with newer ideas to come in there and sort of change things up a little bit. I thought, initially that Matt Lombardi was the guy that they would probably look at. But when you dig into it a little bit more, Matt Lombardi is still very young. I thought he was the quarterback's coach last year at Oregon. No, I had to be reminded that he was an offensive assistant at Oregon, and he has spent, some of his time at the college level, but a decent amount of time at the NFL level as well. I think the direction they would probably head in that case would be going with Garrick McGee, the wide receivers coach, who's been at the college level exclusively and was an offensive play caller at the college level. Now, this is going back a little bit. It's been 8 years since he was a college coordinator, but that is certainly a route that Carolina could look to go if they want to try to find a solution for what's going on the offensive side of the ball. I think that staff change probably needs to be made. And then I would believe that you probably have to move on from Armand Hawkins. I know it's early. I know, there are a lot of people that like what he did recruiting wise. Well, there's a problem. He's not doing things the way that they're supposed to be done. He has at least one recruiting or not recruiting violation, but on the field violation. Of course, the reason that he was suspended was because he gave sideline passes to a game, which is illegal according to the NCAA. Yes, you can question how that's illegal with some of the stuff that they are allowing. I'm certainly with most of you on that front. But you can't give sideline passes to a family like he did with Thaddeus Dixon's family. And so that got him suspended. The thing is that as of right now, he is on an indefinite leave from the university. And, the thing is that they are investigating other violations that he may have committed as well. So if that is the case, I find it hard to believe that there is an avenue to really keep him on this staff and at least and feel secure about keeping him on this staff. You need to be able to get him out of there, especially if he's the only one on the staff that is committing these violations. And you need to make sure that you're doing things the right way under Bill Belichick, at least the rest of the way, to avoid any sort of sanctions that could affect not only this coaching staff, but the coaching staffs moving forward. So those are the two changes that I would make to this coaching staff, because I think that's really about the only thing you can do. You can't bring in any new players. We talked about the leadership in the locker room, but I do think that staff changes are probably needed at this point, just going in a different direction in those two areas.
Yeah, I agree with both of those, so I don't really have a whole lot to add. Freddie Kitchens is not a play caller. At this point in his coaching career, I think he is a position coach, and he could be a fine position coach, but right now he's being asked to do something that I don't think he's qualified to do. He's not putting together game plans. He's not making the adjustments that need to be made during the game to put this offense in a situation to be competitive against Power 4 competition. And, you're only seeing that the rest of the way. So maybe, another day we could kind of breathe. Belichick can kind of recollect his bearings and maybe comes to that decision and that conclusion, because he did say after the Clemson game they were going to be in a reevaluation process. But then, a whole bunch of other things kind of took precedent over that with all the different reports that started coming out. And then, it sucks with Armand Hawkins, because I think as much as any hire that he made, like, that was beneficial, you felt, on and off the field, because you were getting a quality position coach and a really good coordinator, or a really good recruiter, and a guy that was responsible for, I think, getting some of the Washington guys here, and was going to be a part, I think, of what you were able to do moving forward on the recruiting trail. But, dude, there's a right way to do it. There's a wrong way to do it. And then there's the way that he's doing it, which is worse than the wrong way. And it's just not a good reflection for Carolina. It's not a good reflection for Bill Belichick, whether he's here for 7 more weeks or 7 more years. You got to do this. You got to do it the right way. And the thing is that, like, in the NIL era, it's pretty hard to do it incorrect. Just about everything is legal in a lot of different avenues, and we're still finding ways to break the rules. And that's not cool. We're Carolina. We're supposed to be above that. We're supposed to be better than that. We're supposed to let the school 30 minutes away do all the rule breaking. But that's not what's happened here with Belichick. So I would fire Freddie Kitchens. And I mean, I'm not even joking. If I was Bill Belichick, I would give Mike Gundy a phone call and see if he'd be interested in coming in here, because I think what Belichick could really, and I know it didn't end well for Gundy at Oklahoma State, but I think he could use someone that has kind of seen the chaos and kind of rise above it at different times in his career. maybe it ultimately sunk him. But, just be an advisor to him. Just be in his ear, because he doesn't really have anyone, on his staff that can help him navigate the crazy world that is college football. You just don't have that has head coaching experience. So, it might be a wild thing to do, but you see this happen where coaches get fired and they become analysts during the season. I would make the phone call and make him tell me no, because you really have nothing to lose but everything to gain by bringing a guy in that, before Oklahoma State really quit giving him the funding to be competitive, was as consistent a power conference coach you had in the sport.
Yeah, I mean, one of the most underrated guys. I've always put him in the same category that I put Kyle Whittingham. I think those are two of the most underrated coaches of our time watching college football, because there was just so much consistency there. You look at what they did offensively for all those years, very successful. So having that guy in your ear wouldn't necessarily be the worst thing. I don't think that's going to end up happening. I think, first of all, there's way too much pride for Bill Belichick. He feels like he's going to be able to figure it out. But to me, just making that call would be a great step in the right direction and would show me that Belichick is at least trying. And that's what you want to see at this point. That's what I want to see at least the rest of the way this season, is that it appears like Belichick is actually trying. It actually cares about the on-field product that we're seeing, because to this point, I can't tell you that I feel confident that he does. I have said that multiple times, and I still believe that as we sit here today. I don't think he cares. I think that he got back into this because he thought it was a fun adventure, that this was a way that he could get back close to the sport that he had been coaching for years, and that he thought it was going to be easy. And he realized once he got into it, this is not necessarily as easy as I thought it was going to be. And I think, we saw that, he is really on his own time. He's worried about what he wants to do. I mean, going to Nantucket instead of preparing during that bye week showed me everything that I need to know about what is on his mind and what he's focused on. And so, hopefully that's something that changes because of everything that happened and went down in these last few days. But I don't know if that's actually going to end up happening. So, who knows what the rest of the season looks like for Carolina, but making some staff changes, bringing, potentially making a call to Mike Gundy, that would be a step in the right direction for Bill Belichick, and would at least, show that he is trying to be competitive the rest of the way. So that's going to wrap it up for this edition of the podcast, guys. Make sure you head over to the website, HeelToughBlog.com. We've got the reports up there from Pat Welter from earlier today, a little bit more on my opinion on that situation. So make sure you go there and check that out for us. We'd greatly appreciate that. Of course, any of the other stuff that came out over the last few days, you can go back and check that out, really go through the entire saga if you want to over these last few days. And of course, we are going to be getting you guys prepared for the upcoming week. We are going to have another stock report coming out of the Clemson game. I wanted to do that here during this week, but it looks like that's going to probably be over the weekend or into early next week because of everything that has been going on with this craziness. And of course, we're going to keep you up to date on anything else that is going on with this story as it continues to develop. If there is any more news for you guys, we will give that to you. And of course, we'll be on here on a podcast talking about it for you guys. We know that this is a tough time. I mean, Michael Daniels says it right here. We're the laughing stock of college football. So embarrassing. I agree with you. I think we both think that at this point that is basically where Bill Belichick has Carolina, but we're not going anywhere, guys. We're going to be here talking about the biggest laughing stock in all of college football, getting you prepared for the remainder of the season and taking you throughout the rest of the season. And then, also on these same YouTube pages, on the Facebook page, over on Twitter, we'll also have you covered on the basketball side of things with the Four Corners podcast. We'll be doing that stuff. Josh is going to have you on the website with everything surrounding this basketball season, getting into the preseason stage right before the start of the season. So you are going to have a scrimmage that's coming up for Carolina that'll be televised against BYU. You'll, of course, have the exhibition game for Carolina in the Smith Center. And then after that, Carolina will get it going. First home game is against Central Arkansas to start the season. So we're going to have you covered from that game all the way through the rest of the season. So make sure you guys don't miss any of that. Again, HeelToughBlog.com. And if you're looking for the pages on YouTube, just search Heel Tough Blog. Give us a subscription there. We'd greatly appreciate that. That is something that has helped us get a sponsor, and we are looking for more. So that we would greatly appreciate that. Make sure you like the Facebook page. Again, all you got to do is search Heel Tough Blog. Will pop up. And also on the Twitter page at Heel Tough Blog on Twitter. Make sure you follow that. Turn on the post notifications so anytime that we retweet a live video, anytime that we put up a new article, you guys will be notified. And the thing is that account, we don't do anything else on that account. We don't retweet anything. We don't put any of our personal stuff on that account. That is strictly just content coming from us. So make sure that you guys hit that up. So that wraps it up once again for this edition of the podcast. Want to thank Josh for hosting with me. Want to thank you guys for watching and listening. And as always, go Tar Heels.